When Microsoft bought Activision Blizzard for $69 billion in 2023, the biggest selling point, the one that got gamers excited and regulators nervous, was that Call of Duty would come to Xbox Game Pass on day one. You would pay your monthly subscription, and the moment a new Call of Duty launched, it would be right there waiting for you. No extra charge. That promise felt enormous at the time. It was Microsoft's way of saying that Game Pass was not just a library of old games you had already forgotten about. It was the future of how people would play the biggest games in the world. That promise is now being walked back, and most people are treating it like a minor policy update. It is not. It is one of the clearest signs, yet, that the subscription model for gaming has real limits that even the wealthiest company in the industry cannot simply spend its way past. Call of Duty is not a normal game. It is the kind of franchise that sells tens of millions of copies every single year, year after year, with almost mechanical consistency. People who do not even consider themselves serious gamers buy Call of Duty. It sits at a level of cultural penetration that almost nothing else in gaming reaches. When Microsoft put it on Game Pass, the underlying logic was straightforward. Use the most popular game in the world to make your subscription service feel essential. If the biggest game costs you nothing extra, why would you ever cancel? The problem is that logic works against itself very quickly. If Call of Duty is on Game Pass, millions of people who would have paid $60 or $70 for it will simply not do that anymore. They will boot up their subscription and play it for free. From a pure revenue standpoint, Microsoft would need an enormous number of new Game Pass subscribers who signed up specifically because of Call of Duty, to make up for all those lost individual sales. That math is genuinely difficult to make work, especially when Call of Duty already had a massive built-in audience that was paying full price without hesitation. There is also a deeper issue with what putting a live service game on a subscription actually means. Call of Duty is not a game you finish and put down. It is designed to keep you playing for months, to sell you cosmetic items, battle passes, and premium content throughout the year. The entire economic engine behind it depends on players being deeply invested and willing to spend money inside the game. When someone buys Call of Duty outright, they have made a commitment. They spent real money, and that creates a psychological push to actually play it and engage with it. A Game Pass player, on the other hand, has made no such commitment. They can try it, bounce off it, and move to something else the same afternoon. Lower engagement means less in-game spending, which matters enormously for a game built around that kind of revenue. Microsoft has not officially confirmed the full details of what this change looks like going forward, and the messaging has been careful and somewhat vague. But the direction is clear. Future Call of Duty titles will not automatically arrive on Game Pass the same day they launch at retail. There will likely be some version of the game available through the subscription, but not the full experience, or not at launch, or both. The specifics may shift, but the era of getting the complete brand new Call of Duty for your monthly fee appears to be over. What makes this significant beyond just one franchise is what it signals about the broader subscription experiment in gaming. Microsoft built its entire identity around Game Pass for several years. It was the argument they made when they were losing the console war with PlayStation: forget hardware, forget exclusives, just pay this monthly fee and get incredible value. For a while, it worked beautifully. Game Pass grew fast, and Microsoft stuffed it with quality games. But the more successful Game Pass became, the more it exposed the tension at its core. Truly massive games, the ones that generate hundreds of millions of dollars in sales, do not fit neatly into a subscription model without someone absorbing a serious financial hit. Sony looked at Game Pass, felt the pressure, and built its own subscription tier. Then Sony quietly made clear that its biggest first-party games would not be on that service at launch. Spider-Man, God of War, the games that move PlayStation hardware, those still cost full price on day one. Sony essentially decided that the prestige and the revenue from its largest games were too important to hand over to subscribers. Microsoft, having paid $69 billion partly to avoid exactly that kind of constraint, is now arriving at a very similar conclusion. This matters for players too, not just for corporate strategy. Game Pass was genuinely one of the best deals in entertainment for a period of time. It offered real value, and it changed how a lot of people thought about gaming budgets. If the biggest games start leaving the service or arriving in limited forms, that value proposition shrinks. People will notice. Subscriber growth will slow. And the entire argument that subscriptions are the inevitable future of gaming becomes harder to make with a straight face. None of this means Game Pass is dying or that Microsoft made a catastrophic mistake. It means the industry is figuring out, in real time and at enormous expense, that not everything can be flattened into a monthly fee. Some games are simply too big, too profitable, and too central to how publishers sustain themselves to be given away. Call of Duty is the loudest possible proof of that. And when a company that spent $69 billion to control a franchise decides that franchise is too valuable to stay in its own subscription service, that is worth paying close attention to.